Now will be official. Rebecca, we are in Vayigash.
Yeah.
Vayigash. Vayigash. Genesis 44. Can you guys all say that 3 times? Genesis 44:18 to 47:27. I have the best husband in the world who just brought me water. If you were here a little bit earlier, you saw me take a big drink of beet juice and gag. That's gone. What was your favorite part about this portion?
Uh the Obviously I think it's the end part when things kind of just all come to a head, and you know, it was like the climax of the movie, like when you've been waiting for this, resolution kind of to begin.
Yeah,
That was definitely
yeah,
something.
I agree with you. I think that there is a this is a time of year, and maybe you're not that person, but this is a time of year. Maybe you guys had some conflicts happening during this time of year. A lot of times I hear it, people have family conflicts, you're in transition, there's things going on maybe at work. I think it's because of the stress. I can tell you, Rebecca, since I have aligned with a biblical calendar, for me, I mean, we did go to someone's home. We went to my daughter's house on Christmas. We still went to her house on Christmas. We just aren't, it's just not the same stress. It's not the same because it's nothing like what it used to be because we're not subscribed to all of the stress and all of the stuff that goes along with that. The commercialism, and my daughter, we just spent such a great day together. It was like Thanksgiving. It literally was like a Thanksgiving. We realize it's a cultural holiday now, and we just went over there because that's what they wanted to do. It was also for us Hanukkah. The girls had spent the whole week with us doing Hanukkah deliveries, which was so stinking much fun. And it was really cool. But a lot of people are really stressed this time of year. Yeah. Do
Just
you like?
even like doing regular shopping, like
Yeah,
just, your food shopping or whatever, and
yeah,
seeing everybody, and I would come out of there and I'd be like, oh my God, I don't have to do any of that. And I would just get in my car and be like, I am not a part of that. And it was such a burden lifting. Like you just felt like so light, literally. I remember coming out of Walmart one day and just being like, I don't have to do that. Like I don't have to do any of that. And being like so relieved, so relieved.
yeah, right. I completely agree. And it's like I walked into Target and I was running to get something. I thought, note to self, this is the week you don't shop. This is the week
Yeah.
well, first of all, you can't find anything on the shelves, and so I'm like, this is not the week to start. You know what I use this week for my granddaughters is I went around them showing me all the things that, kids were running around with. And I just took pictures so I have it for their birthdays later. So I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that. That's what they need. Yeah, I saw some great pictures from all of you guys. I'm curious how many of you guys find that this is a time of year, it's the most wonderful time. No, sometimes it's not so wonderful. Yeah. It's not funny just seeing with a cold, sorry. The it is stressful. So what I the whole point of bringing all that up was this is a time when there's division. This is a time when there's family issues. So to see that the Father cares about us so much that he put that in here so that we see that going on even in the midst of all of this, right?
Mhm.
We see it in the midst of all of this. Um, I talked about this on Wednesday or whatever, but I do a couple things I wanted to bring back up. One was that the Judah comes clean here from everything, and I thought it was interesting to me that Reuben didn't do that.
Yeah. Well, but I think we see their character play out a little bit in this.
Do you?
Yeah. I think because if you look back at the story, other mentions of them, you can kind of see, because Judah never really wanted to. Judah was kind of the one that was kind of like with the brothers, but didn't want to go like all the way. Like they were like, let's just kill him. Let's just end this here. And he was kind of like, well, no, like, like let's find another way to kind of get a similar result, like let's get him out of our lives, but not it. But then Ruben was kind of a different character. When you read who he was and what he did, you see his kind of character play out. So it would make sense that
Yeah.
he wouldn't come.
Yeah, he wasn't the one who jumped in and took care of things. I guess I would have expected him to as the older brother to say, especially when he's covering for Benjamin. I mean, first of all, he doesn't come forward and say, okay, here's what's really happening. And I'm going to take all, I will, I'm the oldest brother. I will take responsibility for Benjamin. I will be the one who puts my life down. He literally said, it'll be my life for his. He wasn't the one who did that. It was Judah. And to me, it's a foreshadowing. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, if you'll remember, like Reuben is the one who ends up sleeping with Bilhah. He's the one. He has a different character. He's not. He doesn't have a strong sense of honor and of, familial ties aren't a big deal for him. In other words, if he's willing to do that to his father, you can understand that he wouldn't be quick to jump to defend his brother. You know,
Yeah.
so it's
I-
it's you see this kind of different dynamic playing out with these brothers of who they are, their characters, in these
exactly.
little
And
snippets.
little snippets, and you kind of have to put them all together.
Yeah,
Speaking of snippets, close your eyes. Don't, because I just got this. This is I'll slowly bring it up. I had it in like I take pictures of little things for my husband, the things that I want,
that's
and it was in my list. I have to be honest, it's a packet, and I'm looking at the books right now. It's from Kathy Lee Gifford, and hold on, now I have to grab it.
yes.
Do you know what I'm talking about? Hold on a second. I wanted to do something different. Okay, I just wanted to do something different. So I got this had come up on my feed because it's the God of the Way, this whole Bible study. And so it has a whole video downloadable things. You listen, you read the book, you do the thing. It's a little, I would say, a bridge. It's a bridge. It's got all the Hebraic undertones because you have Rabbi Jason Sobel. If you haven't read, is it the rock, the way, what is it? The rock, the rabbi, the road that
Oh,
she
I'm
wrote with him.
not sure.
It's a really great book. I was a really good book, and it's a nice bridge if you have friends, who are just like kind of curious. It's a really great book for curious friends. Well, this is their second book they're writing together. So I put it in my little wish list. I always send my husband, like, if you ever want to surprise me, here's the thing. So then I know I'm going to get something I actually like. And this
Good
came in
idea.
the mail yesterday. He randomly brought this for me. So, but it came with the packet was like $45. You got those two books, and it came with this.
I love that it says personal sizes like this.
Can you just see this? I asked my 4-year-old granddaughter. I was reading it on the couch this morning, and I said, "Hey, can you pick that? Can you get Yaya's book for me and bring it over to me?" She's like, "Oh, so heavy." But it's got all the cultural stuff.
Love it.
I sent a picture to Gail. I'm like, "Look at me. I'm going to be like Gail when I grow up." It's got it's a Bible. It's an NIV, not my fave translation, but I'm not reading it for the Bible. I'm just looking at it for the for all the cool cultural stuff at the bottom. So there's some stuff that I read this morning. So I was like, okay, I'm going to read. What does it say about some of the cultural stuff in here? So I'm going to share some of that when we get to it. But yeah, this whole thing of Judah starts coming clean, and then the second thing I think it's funny, and I mentioned this before, only because we're girls, and only because it's time to get my hair dyed that I have to say this is when Judah says, how he's brought down the gray hair of his father. He's brought down. Did you read that? He's brought down the gray hair. I thought, oh, that's hysterical. He's brought down the gray hair. Where is it? On it's
Sheol,
44:31.
29.
Yeah. Oh, it says then it shall be when he sees that the boy is not with us, that he shall die. So your servant shall bring down the gray hair of your servant, our father, with evil. So I'm laughing. I'm like, there is so much stuff that
Dramatic.
I have my mom used to say, you get this gray hair right here, that's because of you. You're bringing down the gray hairs. But I thought it's kind of funny because it is the truth, and what he's saying is just going to stress him so much out, it's going to kill him.
Yeah, no, and they have a flair for the dramatic, definitely.
Flair for the dramatic, right? I mean, you seeing it playing out, I think because we've seen most of these on movies or whatever. And then speaking of dramatic, you see the ugly cry where Joseph like breaks down, starts crying, when he
I can
finally just
imagine like the coal just running down his face.
can't you? I mean, I'm not a nice trickle. Like it's like
Um,
fully like it's like black. This you guys, he would have been blacked out with coal. That's what she's talking
yeah,
about. And it would have just been running down snot bubbles. It said it was
exactly.
so loud that everybody heard him.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, like if you've been to Egypt. Like,
No.
what are the acoustics like?
My mom's been to Egypt.
Oh,
It's on
not
the
you. You
bucket
didn't
list.
go.
No, she went with my grandmother.
Well, then we need to plan that out
Yeah,
on our way to
seriously.
South
Our,
Africa.
our, our bucket list keeps growing.
I know. We're just gonna
And I'm not
travel all
mad
around.
about it.
I'm not mad about that. We're gonna. This is Gwen, Gail's leaving in a couple days. She's
Yeah,
headed
yeah.
to Egypt, so we'll ask her. But the acoustics, I would imagine that it wouldn't be hard for everyone to hear you because of the way. I mean, in my house, when you're in the living room and the way that's like a megaphone, the way the hallway goes, I'm like, my God, would you turn the TV down? I come in all mad, and it's on 3. It's because of it's like a megaphone coming through the little channel, like the ear channel, and then opening up in my bedroom, and I could hear everything. But still, he's crying. Can you tell we're just I have NyQuil or Dayquil head here. Oh, keep me on track, Rebecca. So it's ugly cry. Everybody heard it. And the other thing I had written down about this is about how he goes, really the whole point of his God's sovereignty, because he's just like, you guys didn't do this to me. You're not the ones who sold me into Mitzrayim. You're not the ones who sold me into slavery. Rebecca, for me, it made me spend some time thinking about the things that I think people did to me that caused me to not be where I thought I should be. Does
Mm,
that even make sense?
yes, totally. You don't even know how much.
Right? How many things am I blaming other people because it could be ex-spouses, friends, churches, all the things, and I'm mad about it because I'm like, you all the things that I thought what they did to me, I should be here, or I should have been this, or I should have been the boss, or I should have had a promotion, or I should have been blah, 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 fill in the blank. How many things have I blamed on other people that it's not them. We have to know that nothing happens unless it's passed through his hands and he gives approval for it.
That's true. That's true. And I think that it takes a level of maturity, and I think we have to aspire to that. We may not be there at that point. We may still be at the point of blaming, you know? We may not
Yeah.
have arrived to that conclusion, but I think that this gives us a sense of hope then that, that God can bring enough healing to us to be able to move past that and see his hand in it. Because maybe we have a very myopic point of view of like, this is what was done to me, I'm here because of XYZ. And God's like, no, you know, this is there's so much more that you don't even see, that you don't even know. And you end up seeing this whole scene playing out, this beginning of restoration play out through scripture later on.
It's a setup. The whole thing is a setup.
Yeah.
And how many things in my life, Rebecca, are a setup? My cousin just called me from South Carolina, and they were supposed to be at the Myrtle Beach all week, out at the beach on the East Coast. And so it's not really. I don't think the East Coast is really a beach, but anyway, um, West Coast girl. The little waves are like this. So he says he's getting ready to go. They have the fifth wheel getting all ready. Start up the truck, to back it up, to get it all set, to connect it to the trailer. They're packed and ready to go for a week. They do this every single year. Right after Christmas, they go for a week and nothing. And they turn the key, nothing. He's like, what the heck? So he gets, they both take vacation. This is a big event every year for them and their family. They bring grandkids, they bring all the things. They lift up, sorry if it gets loud here, they're vacuuming outside my door. They he lifts up and a squirrel had chewed through the fuel line. So he calls the Ford dealership and they're like, well, we can't get you in for like 6 days. And it's about $700 just for the part plus the labor.
Wow.
And he goes, Charlie, I didn't even he goes, I didn't cuss. I didn't get mad. I was like, okay, well, this happened. I have to trust that God has a plan and there's something different. And he goes, I was thinking, what would have happened if that squirrel had chewed just through part of it and I wouldn't have known? And it was enough to start my truck blew up on the way.
Yeah.
There's so many, I mean, there's so many things that could happen. He goes, and in my old days, I'm realizing I have to trust God has a plan. And it made me laugh because I'm thinking of this. I'm like, we have to trust he has a plan. And it's easy to say when we're the ones we're just dealing with
Going through it.
small things,
Yeah.
trivial things. But what if you're praying for your child not to die in the hospital? right? What if I mean, we have a girl that we've been helping who had to leave a very abusive situation and get her out and working with local authorities and everything to get her out of the home, and all of the homeless shelters were full. All of the women's battered women's shelters were full. It's the winter time. It's closed. She has 5 kids. Some she took in that were her sisters because her sister died of a drug overdose, and so she brought them in, and so her heart was to make sure that they were living in a good place, but she had to get them away from a very abusive husband. So in the process, how do you say this is all good? He's got a plan. Some of it's our decisions, sure, but some of it's not. Some of it, people change. You think someone's a certain way and then they change and you don't know that that's who they are when they drink a lot of whiskey or who they are, you don't know we can't there's a roller coaster that happens, but we go back to Romans 8:28 on everything. 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 Even the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? Even the hard things.
Definitely, definitely. So I think that this is like a beacon of hope for people to recognize that even when we don't understand, and even if we're still going through the process of trying to like work through those emotions and work through those feelings and work through the betrayal or work through whatever it is that you're going through where you feel that kind of way, you feel a certain kind of way, you feel abandoned, you feel angry, you feel all these things, to know that at the very core of it, to be able to get to a point after everything that Joseph suffered, to be able to get to a point and say, it wasn't you, it was God, and still choose to serve God and still see, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because he could have looked at him like, God, why would you do this to me? Like, I don't want to serve you. If this is the way you're treating me, like, I don't want any part of that. But to be able to
And
see
to
that
have
it was
a
God.
whole 'nother culture take him in and treat him amazing.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, the temptation. Hello. You know,
We talked
but to
about I
be
I would have said no. We talked about this last week and whatever. I would have just been like, "No, that's too pagan. I
good.
can't do that. No." I've I can't even imagine what things I've missed out on for my own righteous indignation.
But to be able to go through that, to say that it was God and to still trust God, that's huge.
Huge.
That's huge.
Yeah. From the pit to the palace to the pit, back to the palace, and then to
And it
have those people come before you.
and not forgetting that it took time for that to happen. And so
Mhm.
we have to give ourselves a little bit of grace too to work
Very
that
That's a
through.
good point. That's a good point.
It
This
took
didn't
him
happen overnight.
no. I mean, please, the names that he gives his children, you can hear the pain still,
Yeah.
and he's still working through it.
Yeah.
But he's able to get to a point where he's like, no, this was for good. And and it's really like I always kind of like liken to it to when I gave birth to my son, and those who have had children, when I was going through the pain, you're like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, can we just stop? Like,
Yeah.
no. And it's like, no, this is happening whether you want to or not. And as soon as they're born, everything goes away, and like this love comes into you that you don't think about anything except that other child. You don't like, and I think that's the way God tricks us into having another. You forget what you
Yeah.
went through.
Yeah.
But it's
I
going
is
through
that
all that.
isn't that the way with any hurt? I mean, we
Yeah.
jump into things sometimes to our detriment, and we'll jump into a cycle of abuse, but which is not healthy, but a lot isn't it beautiful that I'm thinking that's exactly I think how it was, especially Mitzrayim. I always look at it because it's a tight, narrowing places. We think of it as a birthing canal. So it's a really good analogy, Rebecca, is that here he's in this place of this narrowing. It was also a narrowing of Joseph's culture. It was a place of not it was birthing, it birthed out of it ultimately a nation. But everyone who came into them, I mean, we see Judah now standing up and being who he's called to be. We see Joseph standing up being who he's called to be. And you know what we don't get that this is a generational viewpoint. This isn't just a viewpoint of what we are so western minded, me narcissist. How is this going to affect me right now, my family at this second? We are not thinking about what am I leaving for generations to come? What am I setting up for the next generation?
When we had our team meeting and we had to show Shabbat candles or something like that, we were doing an exercise or whatever, and I had this on my desk, and so I still have it here, and it is this little thing that you carry when you travel, that you can put like your little Shabbat candles and have Shabbat or whatever, right? And it makes me think of the fact that Joseph would have been doing this like by himself for years and
Oh,
trying to maintain. Everybody else is doing something else, but I'm lighting my little Shabbat candles on Shabbat, and I'm trying to hold on to that when everything is crowding in and trying to push in something else, and maintaining that to the point where he can get to this moment and have this restoration and have this kind of healing take place. That's huge, you
it's
know?
huge. And he didn't forget who we see the progression of his gift. We saw it through this whole story. We saw his progression go from being like, oh yeah, your dreams about you guys bowing down to me. And then we see him as his gift matures and he's like, oh no, it's not me, it's him. He gives Elohim, he goes, it is the gods. He's the one who's telling you. He gives honor to the right place. And now we're seeing, oh wait, these brothers bowing to him, and we don't see that same pride. Like, yeah, exactly. See? You guys remember the dream? Remember? You don't even see that at all. This sounds better when I have a cold, huh? Remember? I could totally do like Guido voice. Dude, how you doing? He's not doing none of that. He's
No.
not. He like breaks down crying. He's humble. We see what God has done. And if any time in his life that he could have been that guy, remember,
Yes.
this is the guy that when he leaves in a chariot, people run ahead and call out for people to bow to him.
If
That's the
ever there
guy.
was a moment.
That's the guy. So he could have easily been that person. And he could have been like, I told you this was going to happen. Never, I didn't read that anywhere. So does anyone have a translation? Please let me know. But I have not read it in all my years that I can remember. Then again, I could have forgotten it, but please let me know if it's in here anywhere that says that he said, do you guys remember that dream? I also don't, it doesn't even say that they brought it up.
No, but what's funny is that he says, "Oh, I'm your brother. You know, the one you sold to slavery." Like he lets him know what's up.
You
He
know,
doesn't.
remember? No, not. I'm the brother, remember? I'm like the second youngest, remember? I'm like Rachel's son. Hey, remember? I'm the one who had this two coats. Remember, I'm the one who was studying all the time, which hey, that all paid off, by the way. BTW, I'm now I'm running like the world, the
Yeah,
whole world. It says every single everything and all everywhere. So everybody was coming to them. Yeah.
yeah. No,
Remember,
definitely.
I'm the guy you sold into slavery.
You know, the one you threw in the pit. You know,
Remember that guy? The guy you think's dead? Not so much. Surprise! I'm here. Yeah.
but he doesn't shove it in their face. I think it was a point of him because he looked so different. He was completely different. You know, in
Yeah.
the beginning, it's like they would have had no clue. And it's interesting because even when this happens and they're like, "Oh, well, you got to bring my father," and they go back to Jacob and they're like, "Look, come." He's like, "Yeah, right. That's not true." And then he
Yeah.
sees the wagons coming. He's like, "Oh my gosh."
It's true.
And and it says like life came back into him, like because he was he never recovered from this. And I found it interesting that when they prepared Jacob to take him back, God has to actually come and talk to him and speak to him. And we
Mhm.
see this this is kind of like the culmination of this whole thing that started with Abraham back when God calls him out and says, "Hey, I'm going to take you to some place, just." And it's just a voice that comes to him, and he just starts this journey that ends up affecting the lives of so many.
Mhm.
And we
Mhm.
come to this place where it's like God comes up and he shows up on the scene and he'll say something when there's a moment that you have to pivot or move or change or something. And in the midst of that, you kind of have to work through what he said last time. And it doesn't, and he shows up audibly when it's an important thing that has to happen.
Mm.
So Jacob is like, you know, yeah, whatever. I lost my son so long ago. I don't know what you're talking about. You brought me the bloody coat. I remember. I remember fully mourning him. I remember. And they're like, no. And he sees the wagons coming, and God has to come to him and say, no, listen, this is happening. This is happening. And and Jacob's response is so telling because he says Hineni, which is like, hey, I am here. I'm ready to listen. I'm ready to do. even though my heart feels like I can't take another blow. I'm already, but God is like, no, you need to go, and I'm going to turn you into a great nation. It's like God is continuing to let him know that word that I gave you back there, I haven't forgotten.
Yeah.
Years have passed. I'm making it happen, you know? And so Jacob goes and he's willing to take that leap of faith of being like, could it actually be possible that my son, because it wasn't like a 5-minute ride,
No.
and we forget like the distances and the time and everything that
That's
plays.
why it's so important to grab out your things. I mean, I just put it away, but I'm grabbing out my Bible and I'm looking at I'm grabbing out the maps and I'm looking at the maps. Now, where were
Yeah,
they? Now, where was this? Because people are like, well, why? I've had people, you and I both, they've asked us what's so important about the geography? Why do we know the geography of this? And it's okay if you're not there, but give yourself some grace. But if you've been doing this for a while, I'm going to encourage you, like, as you're going through this, grab a map and look, like, put a little dot and be like, oh, especially if you're homeschooling, what a great opportunity. Put a little dot and be like, well, this is where they were, and this is where they were going. That's
and no
far.
car, no
No car.
plane, no train, no bus, no nothing,
No.
walking or on a donkey, or they had wagons at least, to be able to travel in some comfort, which would have been a big deal back then. But the
Huge deal.
point for me that I see is the time, even the time that it took from when he gets that word, when God speaks to him, it's like, hey, no, this is happening, to when he actually gets to see Joseph as a parent.
Oh,
Imagine the emotions that are going through your mind, like, what if this is true, what if it's not true, what, all of that, that anxiety,
yeah.
really. I mean,
Right.
let's call it what it is, the
Yeah.
worry, the hope, the fear to hope,
Well, we talk
that
about
what
the
if I
hope.
do.
The word tells us hope deferred makes the heart weary. I mean,
Yeah,
our heart dies, and he's saying it comes back to life. I can't not. I felt this really strong when you were saying it, and I was kind of like, "Are you sure, God? Are you sure, God?" In my head as you were saying it, but I feel like this is a word for somebody, and the word is that your wagons are on the way, and that you need to look up because the wagons are on the way. You've lost hope that you didn't think it was going to happen. You thought something died that there was a promise to, or that you had hoped in, or that you had you had invested emotion and life into, and you were told or you thought that thing was dead. And I just feel like whoever needs to hear that needs to know that your wagon is on the way, and look up. And I think that has a lot to do with what we've been saying the last couple of weeks is you better have your gifts. You better be practicing your gift out of season right now, because I believe he's about to start calling people up in a big way. And you better be ready, because if not, he's going to have someone else do it. He's going to have someone else do it. So your wagon's on the way. Have hope, whatever it is, whatever has happened. And I feel like there's so much right now church trauma that we're all acknowledging the fact that maybe at some point in your life you experienced some pretty intense church trauma, and it's happened to most of us. And it's okay for us to say it happened, but it's not okay for that to be our identity.
absolutely.
And it's that gift is still there. It's without repentance. He gave it to us. He doesn't take it back. There's no take backs. It's in there. And he's calling you to cultivate that gift and be ready, because he's about to start calling people off the bench to play.
Yeah.
What's he going to do, right? I mean, I'm saying that if you're a worship leader, if you're a writer, if you're a teacher, if you're children's ministry, if you're women's ministry, whatever it is, what are you good at? What could you, if I called you right now to talk about something and you could just not shut up for an hour telling me about something, that's a thing. That's the thing that he's given you.
It's so funny that you use the analogy of the bench, because we just finished watching the World Cup, and every time I watch soccer with my son, I get so aggravated when the coach will put somebody on literally 2 minutes before the game is over. I'm like, "For what?" I'm like, "They practice, they're there, they're getting ready, they train, they do whatever, and literally will throw them in the last 2 minutes, the last 30 seconds of a game." And I'm like, "For what?" Get so angry. But a lot of times, one of the key things that happened in this World Cup this year was the fact that a majority of the games were determined literally in the last 30 seconds of the game.
Mm.
And so if you think that you're in the last 30 seconds of your life or of your calling or whatever, and nothing's happened and you've been sitting on the bench and you're like, whatever, literally that's all it takes. All it takes is for God to call you
Yeah.
and say, it's time.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
enough time.
It's enough time.
It's
Start
enough
calling
time.
life to those dry bones. Start speaking to that stuff. Start acting as if until you are again. You need to
Yeah.
walk. I mean, you may be. I mean, I remember Rebecca, like, and I think Brenda and I talked about this last week, but I do remember teaching to my self in the mirror. I do remember going to some little place and maybe one or two people showing up. I do remember still doing that. And today it doesn't matter if there's one person shows up, if even on video, if one of you show up, that's it. I'm giving you 100%. If 2,000 of you show up, I'm giving you 100% because you don't care anymore. It's not about that. It's about the obedience, not the numbers. It is really about your obedience and start. You may, when I was, remember when you're kids and you'd line up your babies and I would like teach my dolls, line them up and play school or whatever. Whatever you have to do with your kids, operate in that gift. Sister, can we just encourage you today to just I just kept hearing that your wagon is on the way. Look up. Your heart is broken. Your heart feels like it's a relationship. Something has been just devastating to you. And you need to hear today that your wagon is on the way and your wagon's loaded. Your
Amen.
wagon is not just bringing the news that it's true and this is alive and this is well, and it's going to bring not just sustenance to you, but your entire family. This is bigger than you. The redemption of whatever was taken away from you is bigger than you. The redemption is for generations, for the world, right?
Amen. No, amen. And we see it here when Jacob says Hineni, that
Yeah.
should be our word
All
going into
yes.
2023. Hineni.
Hineni.
And I remember hearing Sarah Lieberman's, she was teaching on this and she said, Hineni is my answer is yes before you even tell me what it is or you even ask me,
Oh,
you know? And I think that
Sarah.
that's the word that we need to walk into. I know that it's not the biblical year. The bibical year has already started, but we do live in a society where we have a new, you know,
Yeah, it's just
cultural
like
year
having
and
a
stuff.
business where you have your two
Exactly.
different years. You have your,
So
you have different years. Yeah,
so
we're
we're
fine.
walking into 2023, we're walking into and our word I think needs to be Hineni. Because I think that that's is what's going to bring restoration, healing, and fulfillment
Mhm.
and answers to what we've been waiting for, you know?
Hineni. I love that. I mean, wow. Uh, Rebecca downplays how much she spent some really valuable time with Sarah Lieberman over in Israel in her worship school. Does she call it a worship school academy? What does she call it?
It was an internship.
An internship. Yeah, she did an internship, a worship internship with Sarah Lieberman over with some people that you listen to all the time. And Rebecca's like, yeah, whatever, it's not a big deal. Look at her face. And so she knows people. She knows some things. And so she's not dropping names, but she's saying that my answer is yes before I even know the question. You guys, really, really, my answer is yes before I even know the question. Yeah. And I like this one of the things I really liked about this portion is I circled just in one page. You guys see, I circled. I circled for those of you listening. I'm showing up a page of of chapter 45 and 46 where I have every time that Jacob is called Jacob or called Israel and the interchange.
The other thing, yes,
The
yes,
interchange just
yes,
in a small time. Look at you guys, like just in that time, I circled all the different times and he's called it's interchangeable. Even when he
yes,
wakes him up and says, when you're saying he says Hineni, he says, and Elohim spoke to Israel in the vision of a night, and he said, Jacob, Jacob. I'm like,
yes,
but you just said you're not going to call him Jacob anymore. No, what he said was you won't be known as Jacob anymore. You won't
yes,
have that. And what I when I sat in that, is realizing, he's given you I want, we were talking about your wagons are on the way. He is doing a new thing, but he's doing a new thing with your old stuff. He's doing a new thing with the gift he already gave you. He's wanting you to hone
yes.
it, and it's not going to look like what you think it's going to look like. It's not going to look like Egyptians wagons coming is not what Jacob would have expected.
Mm-hmm.
He would
Mm-hmm.
have expected him to come with a bunch of sheep and come, looking like a shepherd or looking like him.
And the sheep were looked at as like something degrading and
Yes,
like
yes,
it's
that's
completely,
yes,
completely,
absolutely. It was not
upside down.
it would not have been these wagons coming loaded with Egyptian stuff. So
Yeah.
I'm just telling you guys, get out of your religion, get out of all of yourself, your flesh, your what you think you're so smart about. I really think he's telling you peel it all away because I'm about to send some stuff to you and it's not going to look like what you think. It's
Yeah.
not going to look like that. And you're not going to be known for what you used to be known for. And we and you know,
This is
it's
so
worth
good.
repeating.
I hope that people are receiving because it's so good.
It's
So
so
good.
much. It's so
Yeah.
much. And one of the things as women especially, we, you know, Rebecca, like if you said something and you were like, "Oh, well, Charlie, I heard you da da da." One of the things that would hurt my feelings would be that, "Don't you know me? Like, don't you know who I am? I would never do that." And so when someone's usually spreading a gossip or whether they're, you know, this could and when your husband or a friend that's close to you, one of our biggest hurts is because we feel like they don't know us. Like, don't you know me better? I mean, that's not who I am. Or they're judging us from who we used to be. And they haven't noticed the
The
change.
change. Yeah.
They
Yeah.
haven't noticed that you've changed. And I think this is with the Jacob and Israel thing. It's that he's no longer known of the negative part. He's going to be the struggler because like isn't the combination of Israel, I wrote it down, like the name Israel is to strive with and a designation for God. So it's the struggle now is going to be striving with his designation for God. He's striving with his calling. Wait a
Yeah,
minute,
exactly.
isn't that the people of Israel today to this date? They're striving with their calling. They're still wrestling with their calling. He's still Jacob, but he's got a calling now.
Mhm. Mhm.
And
I think it's like God taking all of him,
yeah.
not just the parts that, not just the part that he called, not just the part that the promise or everything, but he's saying, I'm taking you, your whole person. I know who you are to the depths of you. I know the things that you think, I know the way that you act, I know your tendencies, I know everything that you are, and I'm taking all of that and I'm using it. I'm
Mm.
not just using the things that I said that I was going to do, because he could have just said, well, I'm going to change you, or I'm going to, I'm taking all of you, all of who you are. All of it is useful to me, and
All of it.
I want all of it.
Yeah. If you're too quiet or you're too loud, if you think you're too shy, you're too introverted or you're too extroverted. Oh, I wish I was I used to see like I see have friends, I'd be like, "Oh, I wish I was sweeter like her. I wish I was more calm about things and do." And they're going, "Gosh, I wish I was more extroverted like this, or I wish I was out more out," it's just a little bit funny, but I wish because that's that I'm at home going, "Eh." I wish that I was more confident in this. I wish I could say things this way. I wish I could. We always, it's like, I wish I had straight hair because I have curly hair. I wish I had curly hair because I had straight hair. You got to get the blow dryer I use. It's fantastic. But curly hair, just straight. Listen, he's taking all of you. It's like when I was praying that one time and I was like, God, I I have this whole prayer ADD. I can't even stay focused when I'm praying. And it was like I heard him say, I know who you are. Don't you think I know that's who you are? He's taking all of you. It's not like the enemy is not the enemy, our flesh or this Satan or whatever you're going to put a thing on it, can't create things. So those traits that are inside of you, they might need developing like Joseph did. You might be still operating in your flesh with those giftings still, but they're still the things he put in you.
Yeah.
So what's the root of that gift you have? If you have a sweet, humble nature and that you're quiet and people are drawn to you for that, or you're able to hear and see things other people don't see, and you're just wishing you were more outgoing. Maybe that's how he's called you is because he wants to have you be observed and be able to catch the things that the other people that aren't as observant don't catch.
Yeah.
Can Simi all the time when we'll bring up about someone's gifts or she's very quick to let us all know we're all a part of this body. We're all a piece of it. And we just can't be jealous of the other thing. And like, we can't be jealous of like, oh, I wish I was a finger so I could carry that ring and I'm the eye. So I'm trying to hold can't wear a ring on your eyeball. We all have this part that's beautiful to play.
I don't know. I think I shared this before, but I think it's worth mentioning now that you're saying this. But I remember a long time ago being in bed and literally like internally crying because I wanted to be, there were certain people that were around me that were like nice and meek and quiet and so sweet and like so gentle, and I'm not that at all. I'm not. and internally crying and be like, God, but I love your word so much and I want to be more like you, I want to be more, and I want to be like them. Like, why am I not like them? And it was an internal thing. And I was next to my mother. She didn't know anything that was going on. And I got a phone call randomly right after that. And
This is a
I was,
random, like randomly? Okay. I'm doing
and
air quotes if you're listening.
and the woman was a friend of my mother who's the same age or older than my mother, that I knew who, but I didn't talk to her. Like, we didn't have like a relationship for her to be like calling me. That was not normal or, you know, expected. And she said to me, I was praying and God gave me a word to tell you. And I said, okay. And she's like, God said to tell you that he made you exactly the way that you are, that he needed you to be exactly the way that you are. And that for me, I mean, to this day, that has stuck with me because
Wow.
every time that I feel like I don't measure up or I'm not enough or I'm not whatever, I go back to like, no, but he said that he made me this way. So tough.
So so there. I didn't know
But
Simi was actually on
it's
here and I
like,
peeked over and Simi just wrote on the chat. She said the orchestra has so many instruments and they form an amazing symphony. I mean, if you're that big loud drum, be that big loud drum. Just be the best big loud drum there is. And but if you're the big loud drum, there's parts of the symphony where you're not supposed to play. You're supposed to
exactly,
wait for the quiet little flutes to play.
totally, 100%.
There's
Just
see
do your part.
do your
That's it.
part and know that he knows exactly this. And this is it. You might be Israel. You're Israel, but you're also Jacob. Sometimes you're Jacob. Sometimes you're Israel. Sometimes I was born Melissa Charlene. Sometimes I'm Melissa and sometimes I'm Charlie. Sometimes, I mean, there's times when I'm different people. I'm still the same person, but there's times I have different things that take over. And sometimes maybe, this is a debate that's been going on for probably thousands of years. If you go back and read like commentaries on that. I didn't this time, but I have before. And I know that this is one of the things that they're always saying, like, why did he get called this time? This is a thing the sages have been going back and forth on. And the bottom line is yes, who cares? Let's not major in the minor thing here. Let's not miss the point. The point of this is there's something going on here, and it most likely is that he's saying he's still Jacob, because we still say the father of the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. We don't say Abraham, Isaac, and Israel. So with whatever argument that I kind of brought up for myself, I could discredit it with something else. Because if it was truly, oh no, it's only when we're talking about him when he's being in his God, he's being godly. Well, then why do we say he's the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel? That should be the thing. So that's out of the way. I think it's, for me, in my heart, I'm receiving it as, you know what? He has called me to greater, bigger things generationally.
Yes.
I am part of a generational thing. And I'm part of a nation that's being birthed into something. I'm a part of that nation. And the part of me that maybe is the world may not have liked, I may not have liked, that was put in me, it's being honed into the Israel.
And you can see that play out a little bit when Jacob goes and he ends up having to go before Pharaoh and the
Yes.
conversation that they have.
That's good. Yes.
Because when Jacob talks to him, um
A
you
shepherd
could
going before a
I'm a
pharaoh.
and he's
That's just,
and Pharaoh's like, well, who are you and how old are you? And he wants to know all
yeah.
this thing.
Who you be?
Jacob Jacob kind of comes and he lets him know who he is, but he guards in his heart the promise that God made to him. But he recognizes, because God has just told him, listen, don't be afraid. Go down to Egypt because I'm going to make you a great nation. That promise, the promise that has been coming down, that, remember, came down through Isaac, then to him. And he's wise with his words now. He's not trying to finesse, because he was a little bit of a finesser
He's a
and
little
kind of trying to,
finesser. Control the
and trying to,
thing.
and he's like, oh, this is who I am. But he goes with the knowledge in his heart that God said to him, this is where you need to be. So he, you see the maturity and that wrestling that you see that going on of who he was and who he is and who he's turning to be. He's able to temper his words, because let's not forget, he is going before the most powerful man at that time, you
On the
know,
planet.
on the planet, that has no regard for God,
None.
that has no regard for anything,
He
that
is
he
God.
considers him. himself God. So he tempers his words and he lets him know who he is and everything, but he goes in with the knowledge that God's saying, go there. In other words, he doesn't go to poke the bear.
No,
He
and
doesn't go in and
he
say,
knows. Isn't it cool that God said, "I'm going to go with you."
"Mhm,
So if God's calling you, there's some things I feel like that God's going to call some of you. I'm going to say it. Okay, I'm going to just say it. Okay. There are some of you that might be being called to go back to church. And you're like, that is a lie from the pit of hell. There is no way. But I want you to know that if he's calling you to do something like that, I just made that as an example. I mean, some of you that he's like, you need to go there, you need to go back to something that makes no sense. But I want you to know, you better know that he has called you to that. And he's saying to you, like he told Jacob, I'm going to go with you.
there's a reason.
There's a
Just
reason.
trust me.
There's a reason.
Continue to trust me."
There's a church that's, and I'm saying that because this is very personal for me, and full disclosure on here is that there's a church that in February when we moved here, that the pastors came to our house because I bought a table, and I was like, there was this it's a long story, but the bottom line is when I met with them, and I think I might have shared it back when it happened, but that the one of the pastors, I God told me to say something in a certain way about what we do here. And the way that I said it is not a way I ever say it. And the words I used were very logistic and specific, and they didn't make sense to me. But I said what I heard him telling me to say. And when I said it, they were like, oh, that's the church that we are. We do that. I used words I would, none of you, if I use them now, 99.9% of you wouldn't even know I'm talking about. But I was like, oh, we went to an ARC church in San Diego and we did life groups and we were trained by Chris Hodges and life group. And he was like, we're an ARC church and we do life groups and we do Chris Hodges. I didn't know these guys from Adam, but I knew strategically that, like you're talking about with Jacob, is like strategically God was saying, say these words. And then I ended up having lunch with one of the wives of these pastors because um, she was super interested in understanding the Hebraic roots of her faith. Like she wanted to know more, and she knew that there was some secrets and dimensionality in this, and she wanted to know more. And so at that point in February, the last of February, 1st of March, I knew God was telling me that he wanted me to go to that church. And I was like, I am not going to a Sunday church. I am going to tell you right now, that is, I'm rebuking that in the name of Jesus, Yeshua, any name, all the names. I'm rebuking it in that name. I'm not, well, guess what we're in right now? I'm almost a year later. I went to take the girls to this play thing. One of the pastor's wives and the youth pastor own this, out of all the area around here, they own this play. You take your kids and you can pay and they all play in this giant, huge area. They own that. And she starts, oh my gosh, blah, 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 talking to me and connecting with me. And I'm like, really, really, really? Are you kidding me? And so we're hearing it, we're fighting it. So you guys pray for me because it needs to be him. It needs to be him. But what I'm feeling in my heart, what I'm feeling him tell me is I need to step into an Egypt. I need, well, what I'm perceiving, and probably all my pride and religiosity, that I'm going to step into this to be able to, first of all, to humble me, I'm sure. And second of all, to be able to bring a dimensionality to there that he's bringing me in. And she's like, oh, the pastor said, would you teach us about the feasts? When they were in my garage, and I've ignored that for a year. I've gone through almost a whole biblical cycle and ignored what the pastor of a very large church, 2 churches, there's here and there's one in Fayetteville. It's a big church. And I'm like, no, okay. Yeah, right. When hell freezes over, I'm not doing that. Yeah. And now I'm a year later and he's like, all right, you ready yet? Are you ready yet? And this kicked my hiney this week. I'll just tell you, because he's like, I'm going to go with you. I'm going to go with you. I don't know where he's telling you guys. There's stuff I think he's speaking logistically to every one of us. He's calling us back. He's bringing wagons and he's telling us he's going to go with us. He's going to go with us. He's not going to make you go alone. When he calls you, he will walk along with you, literally go with you and be with you. There's so much, because when you're talking about we have a little bit time left, but when you were talking about, and then him saying, he didn't come out and say, oh yes, I am, everyone knows who I am. My father was Isaac. And you may have heard of Abraham. He was a big deal. Maybe you know him. Like, he didn't come before Pharaoh like that at all. You said that,
You know,
he
or
didn't.
even like coming before when he goes, he's like, oh, well, my son is the second in command. Like this affords me, you know, position.
Right.
This affords me whatever. I can
I
kind of, and
would've.
I'm an old man. You get
I brag
older,
about
you
my
lose your
daughter
filter.
now, and she's not, like, second to Pharaoh, and if my daughter I'd be like, "Yes, that's my daughter."
Yeah.
I
And
totally
and
would
you,
do that.
as you get older, you tend to lose your filter. You feel like you have the right to say whatever you can say or whatever. He doesn't come in like that at all. He
Mm-mm,
comes in and
mm-mm.
he's like, no, I'm this. Few and evil have been the days of the years of my life. I'm 130. You know,
Haven't lived as I'm not as great as my father or my for they've
yeah.
lived
So
much
he's kind of like
more.
just downplaying it, like
Yeah,
kind of, but with the knowledge, this fresh knowledge of having God say to him, "No, chill. I'm with you. I'm gonna go with you, and things are gonna happen, and big things are gonna happen.
yeah,
Just go down. Don't
yeah.
be afraid." You know.
Which is interesting because I was thinking that as a rotation, as I have a note too that I'm curious, this is a question mark I had. If they're coming back into this land, would they kind of know would the Egyptian have known of them? Because you think Abraham came in, Jacob came, I mean Isaac came in. They all came when there was like a famine or where there's seems like when there's things going wrong, they go down to Egypt, right? And that's a whole nother day and a no, whole nother sermon, right? You could that'll preach. When things go bad, there is a place we all kind of go to regroup,
Go back. Yeah.
and then we go back to it, and then we get birthed out again. There's a thing we go back to get rebirth, to get nurtured, to get and it doesn't always look that doesn't seem like the right place. You feel like they should go to like they should be going to the site of where the mount where the temple was going to be built eventually. Like they should be going to Bethel. Like we should be here in there should be a specific but no, they go to Egypt. Like this
Yeah.
doesn't please, I feel like anything else is just shaking up our religiosity. It may not look like you're supposed to, but he says, and not looking like you're supposed to is don't tell them you're shepherds. Hey, dad, when they ask what you guys do, say you're shepherds. Say you're
Yeah.
shepherds, okay? And when I had talked about this on Wednesday about what I thought that meant, about not having them assimilate, blah blah blah. Like, why of all things would you tell your dad? I wouldn't tell my mom, hey, when you come in, tell them that you guys are stable cleaners.
Yeah.
No, I would want to make my family look good. I would develop a name so it sounded better than it really was. Like, they are stable engineers.
Yeah.
I would come up with something. But he's like, "No, say this." And today when I was reading in this my new little thing about, what was going on at the time, there's a notation in there about, a commentary about this being because he tells them, "Because they're go there because they're abominable. Go there because they're detestable." That's what you're gonna say, because when you go there, say that. This commentary was saying because it was coming in like that, it would have told Pharaoh, "They're not political and they're not here to take anything
Yes.
over."
It wouldn't feel
It was a
dangerous. It wouldn't
total
feel
political
threat.
strategy.
Yeah. 100%.
It
That's
was a
yeah.
political strategy. This is the of now me not using obviously the political strategy. I wouldn't be like, how can I get my family the best land and keep people from trying to attack them and oh, I know, I'll have them be they're all housekeepers. They're all pool cleaners. Yeah, okay, that's what I'm gonna say. No, I would have thought the opposite. Like I'm gonna build him in no, he's like, let's slide him in under the radar.
If you look a little bit before when Joseph is having this final meeting and he's revealing himself to his brothers and everything, when he talks about who he is to Pharaoh, he says, "I'm a father to Pharaoh," and it gives this idea of him. He's helping the way a father would help to lead a son, or like Pharaoh didn't know what he was doing, and God gives him this man that's going to come in, and he's like, well, God has given you the strategy, work it out, you do it, and I'll
Yeah,
make you
yeah,
second in command. So he's kind of been the voice in Pharaoh's ear that has been guiding him and leading him and everything. So he knows how Pharaoh thinks. He knows Pharaoh's weaknesses and character. He knows how Pharaoh would react. He knows if he would feel threatened or anything. So he develops a strategy where he's like, call yourselves shepherds. Like, that's so innocuous. That's so kind of, you know, bottom of the barrel, kind of like, so, and it'll be fine. And you guys will be fine. And they end up getting the choicest piece of land
yeah,
possible
yeah.
out of that. So it was totally, yeah, strategic 100%.
It was strategic. And I mean, we're almost done, but if you think about sheep and goats and sheep, they destroy the land. They aren't like
Yes,
cattle.
yes.
Cattle will eat until it hits, just, eats, leaves a nub and then it grows back. So you can rotate your fields
Yeah.
and it just keeps growing back. Sheep don't do that. Sheep eat to the dirt and then they eat the roots. And then what happens is there's nothing holding the soil. So the topsoil blows away. So it destroys the soil.
Yes.
Sheep do, and it destroys. So they have to be, for them to be in that place, that would have been perfect for them. Now, I don't even know what they were eating except for they were next to the Nile. So it would have been grass, but, and then because of the flooding and the way that happened, I think topsoil, it was a perfect way so that there was a renewable resource that normally with sheep, there was not, it wouldn't renew like that.
It's funny, we had a friend of ours last night who, his family is in Puerto Rico and they are visiting here. And we were talking about, I was talking about one of my favorite films. It's like a documentary kind of thing, and it's called The Biggest Little Farm, I think it's called.
It's my favorite.
Love it.
I
And
love that. That's exactly what I was just thinking of the whole time I was telling you that. It's
I
my
love it
favorite, you
because
guys.
they
Yes,
use
it's
that
on
whole
Amazon.
ecosystem to
Yes.
kind of deal with, and that's exactly what you're saying. Like the sheep worked perfectly in that spot because it solved a problem and it was able to totally go check out the movie. You'll understand what
Yeah,
we're
you
talking.
guys have to. It's called The
Remember the
Biggest
ducks
Little
and the snails.
Farm. What'd you say?
Remember the ducks and the snails. That's
Oh
all
my
I'll
God, the
say.
ducks and the snails are the best. I think that whole movie could preach.
Yes. Oh,
If we would
I,
just leave things and let God, he's a genius. Like he
yes. Yeah.
literally, the sovereignty of God is in that little documentary. It is not meant to be a documentary about the sovereignty of God.
No.
But when you watch it, it's called The Biggest Little
Little.
Farm. If you've seen it, we need to hear you. You can be our friend.
Yes.
But I mean, yeah, I bought it when it first came
Yes.
out. And what we watch it
I show
probably
it to everybody who comes over who wants to watch it. I'm like, you have
same.
to watch.
Debbie Frannick and if you, I mean, they came to visit for the night. We're like, oh, we got to watch this movie, and I put it up. Oh, everybody who thinks they want to be like a prepper or have their own farm. Oh, you got to watch this movie.
Yeah.
It's so cute. Oh, sorry, we digress. It's that day. Okay, guys, it's noon. We love you. Shabbat shalom, all of you. What a blessing you all are. Remember, next week when you're going to be looking to find us, we will post the Zoom link and how to get over to Band really quick if you want to watch live, but we won't be streaming live anymore to this portion grouped after today. And so it's exciting because we have a fun place over in Band. We actually can serve you so much better. It's not filtered. We're able to just, you're not bombarded with advertising from things that maybe we don't align with. There's a lot of reasons. But the biggest thing is we want to get you there. So we've got about 350 of you have moved over there now, which we love it already. And we're going to start really interacting now into that group. You'll notice we won't be interacting in this group anymore, other than just to tell you to go to the other group.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Yeah.
any final thoughts, Rebecca, and we get out of here?
The wagons are coming.
The wagons
Get
are coming.
ready. I think that's the best thing that we could say today. The wagons are coming.
The wagons are coming.
And just listen for that voice because God is speaking and he's going to let you know what you have to do. And if it's to follow, to go into a place where you didn't think you needed to go to, or to do something, or to open up a space to mend a relationship or whatever, he says he will go with you.
Yeah, I'll go with you. So good. So good. Love you guys. We're going to be here for our after party. So come on over. Come on in. You can just still jump in live with us. We'll be here for a little while.